Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a phenomenal day. Look at this God candle from Bitcoin, sending the entire market into a state of phenomenon, right? This is awesome. We'd love to see it. Basically, Jackson Hole conference went well. In case you didn't notice, we're about those bullet points here shortly, and just kind of discuss a couple of invalidations here too, potentially for the price continuing lower, as we discussed yesterday. We want to pay attention to this increased oscillator, and also recognize too how stablecoin dominance is just dropping hard. Same thing with Bitcoin dominance. It's a very, very good sign. We're going to do a comparative analysis as well and touch on the crypto market overview. Be sure to stick around. We got an important one today. Let's take a look. All right, folks, let's go ahead and start off here with some fundamentals just on the back end here, kind of give you some perspective on what happened. Obviously, there was the Jackson Hole conference there, and Federal Jerome Powell basically hinted at current conditions may warrant a rate cut, right? So that's basically a very good sign. That's very bullish in the overall sense. And here are the bullet points here for that conference. Essentially, risks now tilt towards jobs, not just inflation. Labor supply is weakening with demand. Fed scraps flexible average inflation targeting, and stable inflation expectations no longer assumed, and signals possible rate cut in September. So that's kind of the key takeaway there. Things are looking pretty solid in the overall sense for that. Now let's take a look here at this rising wedge we discussed yesterday, and just letting you know that, hey, we are getting close to a bullish engulfing candle here on the 3-day time frame. If that were to happen, that would be a very solid indication of a potential reversal on our hands. Also, this indicator down here, basically this oscillator, it's a histogram. So if this continues to go lower, then we might be in trouble. But the fact that we are slowing that momentum down is a very good sign. Keep in mind, this is a 3-day time frame. It's a larger time frame. It's not really something you want to attach yourself to. It's just kind of something to understand the overall sense. The momentum is still shifted to the downside, and until we start to see that plateau, we may want to presume the price may continue lower. But the likelihood of that is pretty low, considering how much money just flowed into the market. What I mean by that here is if we take a look at stablecoin dominance, this dropping super hard basically implies that money's come away from stablecoins, Tether essentially, and coming into mainly altcoins. We see altcoins shooting up here essentially here today. Obviously Bitcoin's going up too, but with Bitcoin dominance going down and the price of Bitcoin going up, that's typically a very, very good sign. So Bitcoin dominance going down, price of altcoin or Bitcoin going up typically implies alt season, or just more importantly, an up indication for altcoins. So if you're going to be considering some trades here moving forward, it would make a lot more sense to lean more towards longs than shorts right now. I think shorting the market is a bad idea. In fact, we have a significantly large amount of liquidation data I'm going to show you here shortly that's telling us that a lot of people are still very short on these coins. And I think it's a bad idea to consider shorting right now. Granted, I don't love the idea or the concept of taking along at what feels like the top. It's just a better strategy at this point here to try to go with the grain versus against it. All right. All that being said, just a quick summary here. XRP and SUI are testing the resistance ranges. These candlesticks haven't closed yet, so it's a little too early to tell. But Solana and Ethereum have broken their local resistance ranges, and we'll discuss that here shortly. Let's take a look at the backend data here for Bitcoin first, kind of get a baseline on what's going on and see where we're at here. So obviously we know we got a good little candle here. We can see top leverage traders are using a significant amount of leverage, but they're also probably likely going to get hit here hard because they're shorting their too many shorts, essentially is what that shows us. Same thing here with the bid-ask ratio. This is kind of decreasing. That's usually a good sign. Typically the bids start to decrease as the price starts to increase. So we're starting to see that shift in momentum. We saw the same thing previously as well when bids started to decline as the price climbed. Okay, so this is usually a good indication early on that we have a reversal on our hands. Now, as a fundamental catalyst too, you got to recognize that. So a lot of times these things take a little while to play out. So truth be told, some of the safer traders are probably going to be hanging out on the sidelines. We took some nice profits ourselves in our long positions here with, Ethereum 66% from 2 days ago, and our Bitcoin hit our 21% from 2 days ago. That's kind of a lagger there, but we got in at, once again, 112,600 and then 4,100 for Ethereum. So really quick, let's look at the backend liquidation data. and kind of recognize here, first of all, 116,000 for open interest is that heavy concentration locally. That's the heaviest amount of open interest we have for Bitcoin. Now we're past that point right now, probably doesn't matter too much, especially with this fundamental catalyst, but just know the price comes back down to retest. 116 hypothetically should work as a support level for us. That's how open interest works. Because once more, there's a lot of interest there. And generally speaking, there wasn't a lot of exit liquidity. We're seeing a lot more money flowing back in. All that said, liquidation short delta is at 12 billion. That is insane to me to see this many shorts piling up, or just the fact that we're seeing more shorts now than we did even earlier today. That tells me that they're about to have a really bad day. So a lot of shorts got squeezed out, but more shorts are entering the market. We can see 117 to 120,000 is that next pocket of liquidation to the upside. So I'm willing to speculate we're going to see 117 to 120 in the relative near future. All that being said, daily time frame, what are we looking at here for Bitcoin? So these are, keep in mind, when you have significant pumps like this, it can skew things, so to speak, right? So everything's going to look super bullish for the most part on the lower time frames. Larger time frames a little bit slower, but we can see we have pivoted, so to speak, on that stochastic RSI. We're tentatively above 50 on the RSI, but haven't broken that 50 and or that moving average just yet. So I still don't feel like we're in super great shape here. We want to see the money flow index pivot back above that to feel comfortable. So once more, the daily time frame, well, it looks pretty nice, all well and good. We're coming up against some confluence here and resistance. 118K is that local resistance based on volume. And we've got both moving averages, the important ones here at 116.5. So closing above 116K today would be beneficial, but we really want to close a little bit higher, maybe 118 or higher. That's asking a lot because honestly, the higher the price goes in such a short amount of time, the more likely it is to drop. So there's kind of that too. That's why these can be very tricky conditions to trade, but there's no doubt about it. You want to follow the volume, and this is a lot of volume, okay? So the likelihood of the price reversing instantly is pretty low, even though I typically like to see short liquidation delta as a good gauge of what direction we're going to head. I think people are wrong trying to short right now. I think it's a bad idea. While the price should pull back at least a little bit, I think it's kind of crazy to consider shorting right now just because of an overextension. We know what overextensions do in crypto. They rip and destroy your account apart, okay? So be very careful. All that being said here, everything looks fantastic on the 4-hour time frame. There's no other way around it. There's nothing remotely bearish on the 4 hours. So we got a shifting bullish daily time frame, but it hasn't happened yet. And the 4 hours obviously looking quite strong with high volume. That in combination with all the liquidation delta to the downside, I think we're about to see a short squeeze, a pretty massive one. I think Asian market's going to continue to pump later today. All that said, let's take a look here at Ethereum, see what's going on here next. Double check a couple of key factors here. First of all, Ethereum, let's go ahead and pull up the right charts and just go ahead and get a little refresh here. And if I recall correctly, we had open interest at about 4,400. That really doesn't matter too much, but that is a potential support for us. So we see the price pullback. I don't foresee that happening. There's open interest, kind of a small amount, about 4,700. So we might see some resistance here soon, but we got 20 billion in long liquidation delta. This implies that shorts got squeezed out super hard on Ethereum. Basically implying that people are more biased towards longs than shorts on ETH. So definitely don't short that coin. It's a bad call to try to short anything in this market. Honestly, the way that the open interest has been just kind of telling us that we're seeing that bounce, that recovery, that capitulation, so to speak, is a very good sign. Anyways, there's more liquidation at 4,700 too. So I think 4,750 is probably the next stop here for ETH. And then it may pivot or bounce from there. Let's see if there's any key level supports and resistances. And that's mainly what we're going to be looking at here today, folks. We're going to be kind of focusing a little bit more so on key level supports and resistances, because when these price actions, when the price action moves fast like it is right now, you want to kind of understand these reliable areas. And once more, you don't just base it on fib levels. We look at previous highs and lows too. So we got our previous highs here at about 4650 for ETH. So we're right there at that current price point. It is a 0.786 fib level. So if we do end up seeing a pullback, this will be a logical place to pull back. And oftentimes you'll see a short-term correction to the local fib as well, that 0.65, 0.68 fib level at 4,500. That's a rough estimate. So potential resistance at 4750, pivot, bounce off 4,500. So hypothetically, the price pulls back to 4,500. Later today, I'll be interested in considering a long. Even though we already have a long position open, we have secured more than 50% of our profits on that trade. So there's that. But there's no other way around it. The daily time frame was already bullish yesterday for ETH. It was trying to transition bearish, but not even close. We maintained above our point of control there at 4,300. We're looking pretty solid here at this point. So ETH is looking good. I would move your stop loss higher if you're currently in profit just to be safe, but I think 4,500 should provide a lot of support if we do end up seeing the price pull back. But 47, 47.50 is that logical next stop. Taking a look here at Solana, we're going to double check a few important things, such as resistance. 205 to 210 is that resistance for Solana. So bear in mind there's going to be some potential exit liquidity there. It's also the local high. It makes perfect sense. People typically sell at those areas, but we have liquidation long delta at 2.5 billion. And when we look here at liquidation, pretty much all of it has been fully swept. We could do our due diligence here and take a look at let's do the last 3 days of liquidation. That's fully swept too. And let's quickly double check the last 24 hours. Roughly the same scenario. Pretty much all liquidation stops at 200. So I'm gonna just shoot from the hip here and say 200 is going to be a resistance for us. Potential slowing pressure there. Once more, we got our previous high at 205. So just kind of keep in mind that's definitely somewhat of a resistance. So I think 200, 205, we're going to start seeing some slowing pressure if the price does pull back or slow down on the way up rather. But the daily time frame, as per usual, was still bullish. We discussed this yesterday. Solana and ETH are both the bullish-looking macro structures. SUI and XRP, we'll look at that here next. They are not quite as bullish on the macro, so just be mindful of that. And somebody was asking me why we didn't short SUI yesterday, and well, the truth is we shorted it last week, and we took somewhere in the range of about 50, 60%. There it is, 55% in 7 days. So, you know, it's good to get out of those short positions. Honestly, last week made sense for shorts. This week, not so much. Having said that, though, Solana 4-hour time frame, where overall moving averages, our descending trend line has been broken, and we're all in all in a pretty decent shape. Key takeaways here is that our local resistance, we got our local high at 195, and our previous high to that was 198. So we're probably going to see some slowing pressure here soon between this, in this range. So this is kind of somewhat of that resistance range. We'll do blue here. Yeah, so I'll post a playout chart on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord to give you perspective, but we have a lot more resistance above the price for Solana. So keep in mind our local highs should work as a resistance. If the price does pull back, it's very common to retest the local highs, such as this 0.382 fib level. So this guy right here is ultimately what we're going to be looking at. So something along those lines is what we're kind of leaning more towards. So if Bitcoin remains in the 116K, 117K range, we see Solana pull back to the 190s. I think low 190 / 189 would make a lot of sense, pivoting and bouncing off our local high. It's a really common characteristic in trading. Okay, so let's move on to SUI. Let's see what's going on here. We are going to probably be, if I recall correctly, and this has changed a little bit, but $4 to $4.40 is that upper area of open interest. So the key takeaway here is that 380 is the heaviest concentration locally. So we're probably going to see the price slow down at 380 first. But just remember $4, $4.20, $4.30, that's going to be that area there of once more macro resistance. Overall, though, liquidation short delta is now at 0, basically negative, if you will. So what that implies, we've got more longs and shorts right now. So all that 600 million in shorts just got hammered here fairly recently. If we take a look at liquidation, there is a pretty solid chunk of liquidation between 360 and 380. So it just makes sense to see the price run to 380 here based on liquidation just above the price, solid rejection level or concentration at 380. And if we look at the overall sense here, we got some moving averages above the price, incentivizing the price to potentially slow down here soon. 375 is that point of control locally. If we zoom out a bit further, what is our macro point of control? We're looking at once more $4. So once more, 380 and $4, those two areas to kind of consider, either securing profits on the way up or short considerations depending on the market. But you don't just blindly take a short position at a specific level because it's resistance. You want to know what Bitcoin is doing at that time. So I highly recommend reevaluating when that happens to ensure that we're in good shape, because if Bitcoin continues to run, pretty much altcoins are going to do the same thing as well. We've seen here, altcoin dominance is increasing, stablecoin dominance, money's flowing away from stablecoin and going right into alts. Okay, so all that said, daily time frame here for SUI, not much to really note except for the fact we have a lot of resistance in the current range based on moving averages there and also previous resistance. So a closure above 360 today would probably incentivize the price to go to 380. We we can talk about $4 later, but I think 360 to 380 is the new range for SUI if we close above 360. We are still under some key level moving averages here, and we haven't fully broken bullish on the daily time frame. So by no stretch is this like a phenomenal situation for SUI. I know we have a lot of SUI proponents in the our Discord community, and as well as just in general watching the channel. So I'm definitely not hitting on your favorite coin. I'm just telling you straight up here, this is a nice pump. It's really nice. It's consistent with the market, but there's nothing super amazing here to let us know that we've broken through those key level thresholds. I think 360, closing above 360 would, should imply 380 is the next target. So, but I do think 380 will be the first rejection spot. And as per usual, when you see the price come up to those points of control, likely to come back down to pivot off the local high, which is this guy here at 355 to 365. So we're seeing some support levels forming here, but it's far too early to tell. So when I see this kind of consistency, in other words, a lot of conflicting factors, I generally avoid trading those coins, at least until there is consistency and we have a little bit more statistical favorability of taking a better trade. All that said, let's take a look here at XRP and recognize that 315 to 330, or correction, let's just make it simple, 310, 320, and 330. Just easy round numbers, remember. Those have been pretty consistent the whole time. Those are the three resistance ranges for us. All that in combination with liquidation delta shifting bullish implies we will probably see that range here hit soon. All that being said, 320 is that massive area of liquidation between 350 and 320. So I think 320 is probably the rough estimate for the next target here for XRP. So if you're in a long right now, it does make a lot more sense to take a long. Now, keep in mind, XRP is a lagger, so to speak, and it's one of those coins that's been lagging behind and running consistent with Bitcoin. So if we do see Bitcoin sell off and pull back, we're more likely to see XRP do so as well. So please understand that. And once more, 303 is that resistance range for XRP. That's just kind of an area that we've had a lot of consistency with lows previously, and now they're essentially a new high. So I don't feel confident in taking along right now right at resistance, but if Bitcoin can maintain 117, XRP kind of hanging out in that range, we're going to be in good shape. All that said, though, we can see today's a 9 here, essentially basically implying that we've seen 9 days of red, and with a strong bullish engulfing candle, there is a decent chance we continue higher. We have some moving averages above us at 0.5 fib level. Our golden pockets hanging out right there at that resistance range of 315 to 320. So I would recommend considering securing profits in the 315 to 320 range. That's a good call on a long. And if we do take a look at the overall data here, everything else is looking pretty bullish. Correction, it's breaking bullish, it isn't there yet, just like SUI. So we're not quite above these key levels we need to be. So another couple of days, we'll get that confirmation that it's worthwhile taking a long. But if you are, in a long right now, I totally get it. Just adjust your stop loss higher. We're entering, some selling pressure type of ranges here. But the 4-hour time frame is looking better. But all coins are going to look awesome on the 4-hour time frame. So I'm not super convinced XRP is out of the woods yet, but I do feel as if the way that things are moving, the momentum is shifted. That 315 to 320 is a solid consideration for either a long or potentially a short if you were to reevaluate at that time. So that's kind of the concept there. Either way, looking fantastic. What else is fantastic too is BitUnix. Be sure to check these guys out, folks. No KYC or VPN required. Links down below for them. They're an excellent exchange. They make things right too. They had a little bit of downtime earlier today, and they're going to recover those any potential losses. And it's awesome. They're always consistently doing that. If that happens, it's only the second time it's happened, from what I can tell. But no matter how you look at it, everything's all exchanges are going to be followable at some point. So anyways, they've just been consistent, no KYC or VPN. They're just a favorite for our community over the last couple of years. So check them out. We'll look forward to work with you either way. Jump on over to our Twitter, Telegram, or Discord, get to know our community, and we'll look forward to work with you. Have a good one. Thanks again so much for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.